So I've gotten to believe that people say that they're busy. When people say that they don't have time to do something, I've gotten time to believe that it's a status game. And I know that there's sort of two things that are going on there that people often do, but there is a game. So it's kind of funny, and people don't really understand this whole game. But there's two sides when people say, or two things that people say that they're too busy to do something. The first side, or the first thing, is that they say that they're too busy that because they don't want to do something. And then the second thing is that they say they are too busy, or they're busy to communicate status in a culture that promotes productivity and control and effectiveness and efficiency and all that kind of stuff. And both of them, you have to not let that eat you up. And I want to talk about that today. So if you don't know me, I am Professor Dave Massock. I'm Associate Professor of Innovation Strategy and Entrepreneurship. And I created this whole reciprocity project to give back as much as I possibly can. There's so many people that help me out that I wanted to pay the favor forward to help you out. So these are, my general sort of takes on this, and that I've seen and observed, and I saw that there's recently a paper on this, and I can't remember who wrote it and that kind of stuff, but I didn't necessarily take a deep dive into the paper, so I can't tell you too much about it anyways, but there's people that study the notion of busyness and whatnot. The first one is that idea that people say that they're busy, and generally they'll say that I'm too busy to do this thing. And generally, it's some sort of excuse. I used to do that all the time. In fact, I still do that because there's a lot of things that you just don't want to do, and it's a polite way to get out of it, right? So, for me, it was really nice, and for any of you who become parents in the future, this is actually really nice, is that it gives you, having kids, for example, allows you to have an out, because you could say that you are too busy, and you really actually are too busy to do some things. You're really, really, really busy to do things, but there's always like things you can prioritize and do if you really want to. And so you just say that you're too busy or you can't do this thing, which is true. You've got to you have that responsibility to go home and to do this, or else somebody is going to die. Like literally, like there is nothing that's better for your sanity knowing that. I'm the type of person that's going to work or, keep pushing beyond, all the time, and having that, like, oh, I got to go home because I've got this responsibility. I need, I can't stay late. That's actually a really nice thing, and it's been very positive for me to have that out. And so I'll say, I'm too busy and that kind of stuff, or I'll sort of focus on that. But then the other thing is that this is the thing that I think is a lot more common. You do hear that, but, at various stages in your life, you might use that sort of, I'm busy. But the other thing is I'm busy communicates status to other people. There's actually, I remember reading or remember learning about this in sociology, back in Sociology 101. You could sort of understand somebody's status in society by how much you actually wait for them. Like at a doctor's office, right? You might wait a long time to go see a special doctor. And that communicates status in society to everybody else, how long you actually have to wait because they're too busy. And now we've got, in certain competitive marketplaces and certain marketplaces, we'll have this sort of um, um, notion where you communicate how busy you are in various different degrees, right? Like I've been working on this all the time, or that's what I did this whole weekend was work on this. It turns out to be extremely common in academia between professors. And, I've learned that is most often not true, that this is like they're working on it, but not to certain degrees. The normative sense is a lot different. Still gets me very stressed out, and I don't like actually talking about that at all. In fact, I try to downplay it. I try to really avoid talking about how busy you are and those kind of things, because it's an easy um, way to communicate status to other people, and it makes me feel very uncomfortable. And I don't like doing that, because I know that, you know, there's a lot of things that you can't possibly be doing, right? And unless you're that one unusual rare person, that is doing something where they have a social structure that allows them to work all the time, that allows them to be busy, which is patently, most often, not true, or it's a sign of privilege, to be honest, because they are given that, right? Like if you come from an underrepresented group, good luck trying to be busy in a certain thing that you're thinking of doing, or in some sort of productive thing. Um, you just don't have. I mean, you have lots of other demands, right? And so you can't do that thing. Um, so in the culture that we have, particularly American culture, we like to communicate how, busy we are, how much status that we have, or how hard we're working, what's the rigor of what we're doing, how serious we are, all these kind of things, by just simply saying, oh yeah, I was really busy and I was doing all this weekend. And in reality, most people don't. And I did a poll on the Reciprocity Project, about a year ago, looking at like how much people actually work, in academia, and it's not a heck of a lot different than what you think it is. Basically sitting down working is like 9 to 5, Monday through Friday. And there's a really great paper on this between CEOs of, Fortune 500 companies. Hard to get that sample, but you can look at this paper. Noya and Michael Porter did this. It was a HBR article, and looked at it. And you looked at these Fortune 500 CEOs, and they don't work, like you think they do, right? Like they're not 24/7. They have a day off on the weekend. The sort of normal, work schedule is that they have a day off on the weekend. They might work a half a day on the weekend, and then their work schedule during the weekday of like actually doing work, they might start at 8 or 9 in the morning or whatever, and then they go until 6 or 7 at night. But there's lunch meetings, which is not necessarily work. I guess you can count it as work, or socializing and things like that. So you have to really take that stuff. um, what I'm getting at is when people say that they're busy, for any of these various reasons, it's a load of, horse crap yet again. And you have to take it with a grain of salt, and you have to realize what they're trying to communicate, what they're trying to do, um, and that you have to read between the lines of actually saying what they're trying to do. And um, that's an important thing to remember when you're going through this. And to be honest, I think it would be more helpful if you were, if you communicated the truth. But we don't like to do that in, various sort of cultural situations. And in fact, you're like the odd person out if you do that, and you look like, especially the whole "I'm too busy" thing. And you communicate that yeah, I know, I actually do eat. Yeah, I do brush my teeth. Yeah, I like to actually read a story with my kids. Yeah, I like to, on a Saturday morning, I like to have breakfast with my wife. You know, those kind of things. If you were to say that out loud, um, um, you would be chastised, and you would be looked at like you're somehow, you know, not as good as, or that whatever, right? And part of that is the social norm is you want to protect their feelings, because they're feeling that they're underworked. And if you were to say that, then they're like, well, who's this person think he is, or she is, or they are. Um, because they're not working that much and have to work all the time, and all that kind of stuff. And you just kind of have to take a step back and say, hey, this is the reality we live in. Um, the work environment that we live in right now, for a lot of people, not everybody, but a lot of people, is pretty flexible, and it's become increasingly more flexible as we go online and things become virtual. Um, we have to realize that. And I think actually in some places around the world, I think some of the countries in Europe, are really taking a very proactive stance on this. And I think it's actually a positive stance on this, where they're forcing vacations, or forcing time off, and forcing, you can't email off hours, for example. You can't email on weekends. You can email at night, and doing those kind of things, which actually communicate, hey, this is your time, and it's okay to do those things. You don't have to hide, and it doesn't have to be stigmatized to do those kind of activities, because you know what, everybody needs to sit on the can. This is being a human being. Everybody needs to brush their teeth. Everybody needs to take a moment and talk to somebody, and get that personal connection. If you're a religious person, everybody needs to have that religious break every week. If you're part of you have a religious beliefs or whatever it is, those things are normal human being things, and those things are really positive. And we have to remember that those are part of our life, and we can't work towards an efficiency mindset all the time, rational, very rational mindset all the time, and focus on, hey, you know what? A part of life is just shooting the shit, having fun, and enjoying it. Um, and that's good. That's positive. That's really positive, and being okay with doing that. So, with those two things, realize what's going on in terms of communicating status, or communicating that somebody just politely like declining. That's the first case, and then realizing this part of status. But also, I would encourage you, um, instead of saying I'm busy, really get to the real root of what you're doing and what is going on. Tell them, you know what, I appreciate, in the first case, I appreciate your offer. And it's an absolute honor to be part of what you're doing. But today it's just not my day. I prefer to actually do something else, for this particular activity. But make sure that you reach out to me in the future if things are different. I'm just not feeling it today. And then the second thing is um, you know remember to, if you're saying I'm busy, instead of saying that and communicating all that kind of stuff that you did and what you're doing, is say, hey, you know what, um, I recognize that you are working a lot, and I absolutely appreciate that. But I also want to tell you a little bit about who I am and what I'm doing. And, I've got this thing that I've been working on, and I'm very encouraged by it. But at the same time, um, I spent a little bit of time with, friends this weekend, and I saw this wonderful thing. And if I think of you tackle, tackle it in that sense, I think you're going to get to know people a little bit more and humanize the situation a little bit more, and enjoy it a little bit more, and remove some of the stress of all this kind of stuff. So, with that, hopefully you enjoyed it. Have a good day. Take care, and we'll see you on the next one. Um, Very much enjoyed having you here. Oh, by the way, if you did, leave me some notes in the pod. Um, I appreciate that, because it helps to spread the word to other people. All right, take care. Have a wonderful day. Bye.